We're live.
Is that the same?
What?
International, these are the same.
One is Spanish.
I think I got them both.
All right.
Here's international. Yeah, I got the right one.
Good. How are you? Good, thanks. One more.
No?
Yeah. People didn't.
It's not quite a bit. Like I was shoveling.
Yeah.
It looked very light the whole day.
But it
I
wasn't.
guess it was such a long time. I guess that's a good amount.
Kind of humid.
No, very like. I was shoveling, like, it was-
It's
Unique considering what they eat.
Yeah.
Well, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's like the biggest.
So.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So you know what's gonna happen is Friday night or Saturday night we're gonna have like
I don't believe
a. You think
that.
so?
I don't believe it.
We're done.
Because they say the next day comes in Friday night.
Just say.
That's what I said.
My company was to have Baltimore office, and occasionally like their kids have been like for these girls.
Yeah.
They've been out like at this point now they have to start taking like online in order to make up because they're like maxed on the
Yeah.
makeup
They
rates.
actually have a lot
I have a friend who was flying back from Orlando to Indianapolis, and they routed them to Baltimore,
Mhm.
and they waited for the crew for so long. And they got on the plane, pushed out the gate. By the time they got taxiing, the crew had exceeded
they
their
had to
flight time,
reset.
and it was like 11 at night.
of.
They
Oh,
went
yeah, it's
all the
cool.
way back
Yeah.
to the gate.
God, that sounds horrible.
That was bad.
That sounds horrible.
Alright. And
It's so good right now.
the second was
Yeah.
inside there. Okay.
It just fell apart. I just went back into it. I totally forgot. Thank you for the reminder.
Looks like I got some stomach flu.
But it's weird. Just Monday, Tuesday.
No man.
Yeah, it's like the weirdest thing, like she'll wake up in the middle of the night, and then the next day she's like, fine. Like, what's going on? And then 3 days later again.
I know, so I didn't know what to do. I was
Yeah,
like, I don't,
it's
I
like,
would assume people. So it's huge disruption to, so now I think. I gave him the weirdest stuff. Can you choose maybe you're not done just.
yeah, we were trying to all that, yeah.
Hello.
We're like, he drinks
All right,
alcohol.
you're here.
Yeah, well, I don't know, maybe it's just like, I don't know.
No, I keep it.
It's public.
Am I quorum here?
You are.
All right.
I'm like, we were like, how was the
Kept waiting for
like,
that
that seems
cancellation.
I know.
You're fine,
Not
like,
happening.
Okay, I feel so much better about it. Yeah, I'm like, is this
It's such a good house or like.
Yeah, I'm gonna push this back a little bit.
Okay. Okay.
Push it out.
And also, like, it's really.
So it isn't like.
Oh, she's
Send them the,
Can you do that?
Yeah.
and it's on there. I think I joined the Google Meet. So. Okay, so I think we can get started. All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our local school council regular meeting. Before we get going, I'd like to go ahead and, well, first, welcome folks that we haven't seen in the past. Thank you very much for your attendance. And I'll go straight through the norms. So our norms are to be an active, engaged, contributing participant by sharing your perspective and actively listening to others, to be flexible and respectful of others' time and decision, to be open to other people's truths and perspectives, be reminded of differences in cultural and social backgrounds, to be transparent about concerns, challenges, and misunderstandings, be reflective, collaborative, and supportive, always take the work back to student achievement. What can we do to make things better for our students, both academically and social-emotionally? Respect student, staff, and LSC member confidentiality unless there is a threat to safety. Meetings should be paused if LSC members or meeting participants experience harm due to their identity, including but not limited to gender, sexual orientation, race, etc. The harm should be named. Understand that not everything has a right now solution and trust that the process is ongoing. With that, we go ahead and do a roll call. Matthew Kwame, parent rep.
Lori Zany, principal. Richard Yansky, teacher rep.
Oliver Dinich, parent rep.
Nicole Granke, parent rep.
Rocky Dolia, parent rep.
And we do have it. There's Eric. You're right on time. We're doing roll call.
Hey. Do a flyby. Go.
All right, so you're next, Eric.
Present.
Thank you. So we have a couple of folks who are going to probably join through the Google Meet link, so we'll wait until then.
Matthew, where is the Google Meet link?
There.
It's like,
It's on the agenda.
Is it?
I have it on
It's
YouTube.
a YouTube channel.
oh,
Let's see. It is, let me write the letters. Is this in here?
Actually, I can probably pull it up this in the calendar. I'll send it.
Okay. Very good.
I'll email it after.
Okay.
Very good. Okay. First item on the agenda is the approval of the order of the agenda. I'd like to make a motion to approve the order of the agenda.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Motion passes. Next on the agenda is items needing council approval. By the way, we have copies of the agenda here if you'd like to get a copy of it. And then there's also a signing sheet if you'd like to, participate during public participation. So really up to you. And yeah, so one is in Spanish and one is in English. And that's the principal report. Yes, I guess. Thank you. All right, thank you. Next on the agenda, items needing council approval. The first one is a standing one, allowing LSC members to join the meeting remotely. So I'll make a motion to allow LSC members to join the meeting remotely.
Second.
Racky, thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? Good, thank you. Motion passes. The only item here that I have listed under this section is the approval of the minutes from the December 5th special meeting. We didn't get them. So, did I? No, I didn't take. Did you take the note, bro? Okay.
Minutes. They're in a folder.
Okay.
I just don't know if they've been distributed.
Okay. So
I'm sure like the day I wrote them, I sent them out to everyone.
yeah, I remember that.
I don't think they made it as the attachment onto this meeting.
Okay.
Oh, wait, wait. Meeting minutes, special meeting.
Yeah, so we can.
Thank you.
I mean, it's interesting. We can push those for next meeting. I don't think it's there was anything controversial or that needed additional discussion. So
20-minute meeting.
yeah, so we can make it for move to the next meeting. Okay.
Oh, no, it is November 5th. But then the folder says 12. But the date that it was created was December 5th. Yeah. I named the file incorrectly.
Okay.
Do you want to move it to the next one? I have
Yeah.
found it. If you want me to send it to everybody.
If you don't mind sending it, but I think I'd rather we move it to the next meeting. If you don't mind. Very good. Next item on the agenda, we already have this slot for Adrian Kabashi, who's our student representative. Adrian's not here today, so we'll move on to the next section. Principal's report.
So I emailed the principal's report on Monday with several different attachments from members of the school leadership team. A couple of things that I wanted to highlight. I included the middle of the year Cultivate survey data that is taken by students and the student voice component of the Cultivate survey is a goal in our CWP. And we met our goal so far at the middle of the year for student voice. And so we saw a significant increase from 51 as the Roush score in the spring to 83 as the Roush score in what's considered the fall. The students will take the survey one additional time at the end of the year. And then this data was also reviewed by the student voice committee that is made up of students and staff members and was also reviewed by teachers and staff members during the January PD day. So I think this is sort of showed that the work that we've been doing is it's focused on student voice is being reflected in the perception of students as they engaged in the survey. At the last meeting, we voted to close temporarily the tech position since Ms. Andrade retired. We currently have $55,000 on pointer lines that we will have to determine how to allocate. We're continuing to search to see if we can find somebody middle of the year, but if we're not able to find somebody probably within the next month, then we should come up with a plan for how we will allocate those dollars. And so we're with staff on identifying a proposed allocation. And this will be the time of year when we start planning for next school year. And so I shared with staff members a request for materials and items that they would like to have purchased or considered for purchasing for next school year. So that document has been shared with staff. Ms. Munoz was able to share a middle of the year comparison of STAR data, which ranges from beginning of the year to middle of the year. This is not disaggregated by different student groups, but this is just a broad overview. And you can see an increase of students from beginning of the year to middle of the year being at or above grade level on STAR reading, STAR math, and then in the primary grades, the early literacy. The pre-K team earned the Excel Illinois quality rating for the pre-K program. That shows that our preschool program is, the gold circle of quality in the Excel Illinois rating. And that just shows that our preschool program is of high quality according to the requirements of the state of Illinois. I had shared a update from Cole Papadopoulos, who's a part-time staff member who's been supporting in the library. He had done like a really nice data analysis of like the library usage and the impact that the books that were purchased through the funds from Friends of Peirce had on the library. And so I thought that was important for LSC members to also see that. He had shared that data with Friends of Peirce as well, but did a really lovely job of breaking that down. Our last professional development day with staff members was on January 21st. Mr. Lerner had led staff through understanding 3 specific sheltered instruction strategies, and sheltered instruction is a like instructional method that teachers can use to support students who are learning English as a second or third or fourth language, depending on how many languages are spoken at home. And so the 3 instructional strategies that we looked at were total physical response, picture word inductive model, and engineering text engineering. We also, teachers and staff also reviewed the middle of the year Cultivate data and created a plan to receive student voice on the data. So sharing that data back with students and continuing to seek perspective from them. Special education teachers and special classroom assistants had an opportunity to collaborate on data collection for IEP goals. The ILT led a session on productive struggle, which is a instructional area of focus that we've begun digging into as it relates to priority 1 of creating differentiated rigorous tasks, and productive struggle being an instructional method that we see as important in helping to boost rigor in the classroom. And then the pre-K team continued their learning on teaching math in the early childhood classroom. We, as a result of the equity panel that was held in January, where Eugene Robinson was invited in by the equity committee, and then there was a joint presentation. We had shared with Eugene that Peirce does have a Black student union, and he's invited 3 of our students and 1 of our staff members to speak at the launch of the Black Student Success Plan for the district, which will be held in the afternoon on February 21st. So it's Peirce students and then Livingston students that will be speaking, which is, nice for our students to have an opportunity to speak on a very large public forum, and that launch will be streamed throughout the city of Chicago. The local school council student elections were held on Monday. There were 5 students that ran this year. It was the most highly contested student election that we've had. And CC Crosby, who's currently a sixth grade student, was elected, and that was announced to students today. So as of July 1st, CC will be the student representative on the council. And then I included escalation for student behavior data towards the end of the report, where we can see that we continue to show progress in terms of our efforts at reducing referrals, classroom-based referrals for students with IEPs and then for students of color. And lastly, there were just a couple of budget transfers that we can get to once we get to the budget.
Any questions, comments?
Why do you think engagement peaked or increased for the election system?
That's a good question. I think that there's like one, more visibility about like this process. The other is that the students that ran are currently heavily, many of them, not all, are heavily involved in student leadership initiatives already. So either through the GSA, student councils, some of the affinity spaces. So I think that that contributed, and then teacher leaders of those spaces also encouraged it amongst their student groups.
So the Cultivate survey is sent exclusively to students. Is that what it is?
So, yeah, so Cultivate is only for students in 5th through 8th grade. But for this, what we did is the staff looked at it, and so primary grade teachers pre-K through 4 looked at our focus areas and then created student-friendly versions of the survey that they're administering between January 21st and February 24th. So that at our February 25th PD day, teachers can then analyze the survey data. So in primary grade, some of it might be facilitated by another staff member in a small group of students versus like a written survey because of like the ability to read or not. And just making sure that we're clear on the questions, like to clarify the questions that students may have.
How does that differ from the 5 essentials?
5 essentials is given once a year, and that one is available to students, staff, and families
And that's in the spring, right?
in the spring. It comes out at a different time for families than it does for students and staff members. Students and staff members is released now.
Okay.
And so there's open time for students to take the 5 essentials. So actually in the Student Voice Committee, we looked at not just Cultivate, but we also looked at My Voice, My School data.
Question. I was wondering if Pennsylvania you can get this data libraries?
Yeah, so we couldn't pull it like that until the window had closed. So now that the window is completely closed, we'll be able to pull disaggregated data.
Okay, thank you. For this time track data, I think this is how you're spending
Yes.
your time since August. Can you speak to that process?
Yeah, so-
And then, I guess what are the takeaways of that?
Yeah, so myself, Kristen, and Sam use the time track, and that's a way for us to monitor our interactions with staff. And we set goals on where we wanna be in terms of the amount of time we're spending per day on instruction.
What page is that? What page is that?
It's under
Domain
domain 4
4.
talent.
Oh.
And so the one thing that's been really nice is that the 3 of us meet weekly to review our data and identify classrooms that we haven't been in and classrooms that we need to do at least a quick pop-in visit. We're able to merge all 3 of ours together The thing that's been really nice is that this year I had set a goal of being more visible in classrooms. And I don't have like off the top of my head what my data was last year, but this year, like there's been a significant increase in the percentage of time spent on classroom walkthroughs and observations. Like my goal is to be 150 minutes a week in informal classroom visits on average. Just when I figured out like how much time, like what would be realistic in terms of you're on a 7-hour school day, my day is longer, like it's 10 and a half hours. So when these percentages are being made, like my average work day is like 10.4 hours. And so, like what is realistic in terms of what a realistic percentage would be. The other thing is, like feedback was a big thing for me, is not just engaging in class visits, but also engaging in feedback conversations. And so the feedback is like significantly increased this year as well.
I have a question. What, how is it measured, the preschool, distinction that was given, the gold, whatever it's called, circle of quality rating?
Yeah.
How's that?
So there's a combination of like survey questions that need to be completed along with like data that's reviewed. So classroom observation data will also be included.
It's a state distinction. Sorry. How do you guys determine, I see the percentage of students that exited intervention. How's that determined?
If students have met their goals.
Okay.
And I think one of the things that was mentioned, it was in the PDLC minutes actually, or that written write-up, is that through the CNWP process, when we were identifying like when to exit students,
Yeah, I remember.
we said that students that are in the bilingual program, we wanted to keep in interventions a little bit longer, even if they met the criteria for exiting, because we would often see a slide back on like these screeners.
Can you speak a little bit about the system data for February? One of the observations I make here is, so it seems like October, November, the total number of installations were, they started with 8, 15, and then December went up to 55, and there's explanation that some teachers were doing journal cleanups. But then February, it's 85 total.
Total, so there's an increase of 30.
Oh, so it's increased.
Correct. It's,
Oh, so
yeah, it's 85 year to date.
And is this covering, so February, does that cover up to January?
Yeah, so the window from December 20th to February 10th is longer than some of the previous windows
So
as
it counts for
well.
the winter break.
Correct, because like November to 20, November 1st to December 20th, there was also Thanksgiving break in there.
And we're highlighting IEP. Okay. Got it. Any other questions? Thank you. Move on to the next section, budget.
So, I emailed earlier today the internal accounts for January. It does not have the bank statement. Lynn has been out sick, so I wasn't able to get that, but I wanted to share what I did have access to. But there were 2 budget transfers that I just wanted to make note of in small amounts. The one is that we transferred $3,000 from a reading line to, or a math line to a reading line in order to purchase some novels. And then we had transferred $1,104 from a supply line to a tech line to purchase desktop computers. Our office staff computers are running very slow, and our assistant principal's desktop is also having a lot of issues, so that was a total of $1,104.
Is that sufficient money?
Yes, because there was a little bit of money in the tech line already.
Okay.
So I will make a motion to approve both budget transfers as noted in the principal's report.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor? Thank you.
And then I'll make a motion to approve the internal accounts for, actually, this should be for January.
January? Because I don't think we did December last time.
So we're missing December also, I didn't
Think
send
so.
those, okay. So should we hold off on the January one?
Yep. I'm gonna add that to the next meeting.
So what was the motion? I missed the second one.
We have to hold off.
Oh, okay.
Is that what you meant by your email? Oh, I misunderstood.
No, I should have explained it better.
Sorry.
That's all good. It's like, I don't think we got that.
I'm sorry.
No,
Totally different.
totally fine. All right.
I have one more question. Looking at data here, I'm sorry to go back, but it seems like, we spoke a little bit last time about this, so like a single student has 28 journal entries, another student has 24.
Yeah.
Can you just speak a little bit
Yeah.
about like what's the steps and at what point do you guys, take further action if there's, obviously.
No, we already are.
28 or
Yeah.
like,
So when we have students with like that volume of escalations for like support outside of the classroom, there's generally, and actually in all of these cases of high, like number of escalations, there's a behavioral health team, like intervention that's put in place. Often, not always, but often it will lead to a referral for a request for an evaluation for either a 504 or IEP. In all of those like high volume cases, that is a process that is currently in place. And students that had previously had a high volume where we had put the intervention in place or like a more formalized plan was created, we stopped seeing those students show up in the referral data. And that tells us also that those plans are working. We also look to see sometimes students where there is a formal plan, if they continue to show up, we have to revise their plan. So we have one meeting coming up for one student who has a formal plan, that plan needs to be revised.
So are these journal entry numbers like from October 8th until now?
Yes, these are yearly dates.
Okay. And
No, they're from like August 26th,
oh, okay.
the first day of school.
Okay. And then I'm just wondering, the students, the top 10 students here, with the most journal entries, are those younger grades?
A lot of them
Or they don't have those much entries yet?
Yeah, it's 130 entries out of the 145, the top 10.
Is that like kindergarten,
It's a combination, I think it's kinder first. First grade is where we had a lot of them this year. Kinder, first, second. We have one cookie student. Mostly younger students.
I'm sorry, what is the 504?
504 would be for medical reasons where accommodations need to be put in place, but there's not a learning disability. Or a more formalized functions happen. Or speech, you can have a speech-only IEP, and there may not be a learning disability, but speech qualifies for an IEP. but we wouldn't necessarily receive direct services from a special education teacher. Some 504 plans include the support of another adult, like a special education classroom assistant, even though there's not direct services from a special education teacher.
I wonder if there's other ways that would be really helpful, like sharing the data with this, with the LSC, like by grade or by number of students versus journal entries.
I want to be careful because I think that that could lead to people identifying as kids born.
Yeah, that's always a problem.
Yeah. It seems like that's, I mean, I assume that's what y'all are thinking into kind of when you're trying to troubleshoot these issues, right? Like these type of plan in place, like the grades are.
Oh, it's the same, is it the same table or?
Not different. The other ones are
Journals
journals. Yeah, journals are different. Journals could be for like kids held down the stairs. Like journals are not always like negative, like student-student conflict.
Sure. No, I mean, like, there's a table that shows, so this one is journal, and then journal percentages. And then if I go to the next page, it says journal percentages also.
Where did I put 3 tables in here?
I think so.
Yeah, if I put 3 tables, I may have not have deleted.
Maybe it's the previous one before. I saw the escalation, that's clear on that. The numbers are very close, but it's different.
Yeah, no, so the journal, this table
Yeah.
is the previous table.
Got it.
So that one's actually not needed. Sorry about that.
That's fine.
So I just didn't delete the previous journal.
That's fine.
So the second journal table that has February is the one that's updated.
Got it. Got it. Yep. Clearly says December. Sorry. Need to learn how to
Yeah, because you
read.
had caught my error the first time.
Are you saying that so many of these journals are discipline data, but these journals are not?
So the escalations are for discipline. The ones that say journals could be for behavior, they could be just like an incident that a staff member wants to record.
Oh, I see, okay.
It's just kind of similar pattern, like most of the escalations, just like most of the journal entries are for a limited number of students. So it's kind of consistent.
So who's going to what year over year? Like, is it similar from last year, or are you guys seeing a little bit more escalation, please?
No, we've been pushing like the use of this system. So we're getting more and more accurate data as like each year progresses because we're using this. Whereas we used to have like, the internal Google form that we were using that was not giving us accurate information. What this is, we could look at like what did like the total number look like last year to this year. But you don't wanna, so like, I'm not as worried about total number. Like, that's not my area of focus right now because we want the accurate data. And so we've just been encouraging people to like use this process as they're running into issues. Once I feel like after this year, we'll have like a better accurate baseline. Last year we made huge progress also, but this year has been a little more consistent. A lot more consistent.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is public participation. So we have a sign-up sheet here. Bergen, I think you're,
Do I speak from here?
You know what, real quick, Principal Zany motioned for the approval, but I don't think anybody seconded it or
For which one?
approval of the funds, transfer of funds, or did I miss it?
Yeah, we
Oh, we approved that one.
We did? Oh,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
so Eric was the
Oh,
second.
so sorry. I'm
You're
so
good.
sorry. I missed it.
It's totally fine.
Okay, good, continue.
You can stay over there, you can come
Nicole
over
said
here.
come over here.
You're good.
Hi, I'm Bergen. I have a brief introduction to share with you about the Peirce Pride Caregivers and then a statement regarding a vote that you'll be taking later today. It's written because I have mom brain. So my name is Bergen Anderson. I have Maya Shenwar here with me, and we are members of the Peirce Pride Caregivers. We started this group last year in order to create and grow community and allyship at Peirce. And our goals include providing a safe space where parents, caregivers, and allies of LGBTQIA+ youth can share their joys and challenges, providing learning opportunities and facilitating opportunities of growth for our community, and working together with our school administration and staff to make Peirce a more inclusive, caring, and supporting community. As you may know, over the past 3 weeks, a number of executive orders have come down from the president targeting trans and non-binary people, particularly youth. These bigoted orders target the ability of trans youth to fully participate in public life, including to be called by their real names and pronouns, to use the right bathrooms, to participate in school activities, to receive health care, and to exist fully as themselves. One of the vehicles we see being used to implement this harmful ideology is schools. Now, the impact of these executive orders will depend in part on how the federal government enforces them, but also in part on how state and local leaders and advocates respond, including school administrations, faculty, and staff. So we believe that it is particularly important for schools who support their trans and gender expansive students to say so publicly. Our school district sent out a communication this week outlining what support can be expected district-wide, which is great, but we're also asking the Peirce community to take a stand. The Peirce Pride Caregivers have written a letter of support, including resources for our trans community, and are asking for other Peirce caregiver-led organizations to sign on. We continue to receive individual names of school community members who want to add their name and support to our letter. And we have also received a confirmation of support from the REP, PSO, FOP, and BAC, which is very encouraging, and also a lot of letters. Our letter has been sent out as part of a larger Peirce newsletter, which is great. Thank you, Principal Zamy. But we'll also be requesting that it be sent out as a standalone email in order to increase views and reads given the magnitude of this issue. Our goal is that this letter of support, signed by so many of our community members and organizations, will affirm Peirce's commitment to continuing to recognize its trans and gender expansive students' right to exist. We have invited you to sign the letter of support as the local school council. We also invite you to sign it individually if you choose to, and hope that you do. Thank you.
And I usually look on the Peirce LSC inbox to see if there's anything that came through between now and then, and there's nothing in there. We'll have another public participation opportunity later on in the program. All right, next, community group reports. I'd like to thank folks who sent their reports, and that's very helpful. I made sure and forwarded those on, so if there are any questions there, do let me know. I don't think we got anything from PSO, but I don't want to put you on the spot there, but I don't know if there's anything. Yeah.
I'm surprised, well, I know because
Fine.
dad's really sick. But yeah, we had a Valentine's Day on Friday, so that's probably the only update there was.
This one.
That's right.
You missed it.
It was crowded. I had a lot of kids. I walked in and wow. So.
I want to say this for the organization because I wasn't there, but I got pictures and feedback. And great organization.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
activities.
Yeah, so thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
So just kind of going down, so again, in FOP, I just want to highlight, we had FOP had an event. Not this past week, but the week before, or Sunday before. And they sent a note about results of the fundraiser. So we thank them for their efforts and everything that they're doing. REP is also having a couple of events coming up this coming week. And so please be on the lookout for some of those. Committee reports, PPLC, thank you for sending that note. And,
That
back.
was locked. So
I think I'm residents involved computers, so I have a very young co-teacher. I'll have to take a look at it in the morning.
yeah. I tried to read it. It says you don't have access.
I think I changed the name. I don't know.
Did you check it a second time?
No,
Okay,
no.
because you had shared it with, I didn't check this if it was public. So you did. I'm not even sure.
It's in there, and yeah, so it is, so it's always in 120 then?
We moved it to 120, it wasn't 120, we moved it to 120.
Excellent. Yeah.
What are the highlights? Just because I don't think they all got to read it.
We got a response from Skyline that the materials are in fact not translated, so they suggested using Google Translate. So some of the teachers were saying that there's like pre-done slides and you can't change them, so they were not too thrilled with that. And then we went over those two CIWPs, part 2 and part 3, and talked about student voice, and then the EL, keeping them in intervention a little bit longer, and so the meetings are usually pretty quick. We were kind of just only about an hour or so.
BAC also sent their summary, a lot of good information there on some of the events that they held or held sponsored. And we also want to thank them for their presence at the Lunar Year Parade. We'll get to that in a minute. Equity Committee, we shared a few items.
Yeah, we can give an update.
Yeah.
Okay. So Lamont Sonia and I serve on the Equity Committee. The mission of the Equity Committee and its new format is to host 3 forums a year. And so we hosted our first forum, which was the Black Student Success Forum that Lamont moderated, principal meeting presented, and we had a guest speaker from the district who's from the new Black Student Success Director. So it was really great forum. We're going to debrief it at our next meeting, but overall I think it was a success. You can see the slides in the SMORE, see the deck, and Principal David and Mr. Lee did a great job of kind of pulling together all of the students for the work that Peirce has been doing over the last decade or so. To really uplift our Black students and to close the opportunity gap for our Black students. And so it was great kind of for the first time to see all of that work in one place, summarized that way. The district is doing a lot of work to create resources for schools and a Black Student Success Plan for the district. So that's going to be rolled out, as Principal Lee mentioned, February 21st. It's really exciting news that some of our students are going to get to participate in that. So that's something that came out of the forum, that relationship as well, which is wonderful. And then having that relationship with the director and the launch of the plan, I think will be great for Peirce kind of moving forward and keeping us top of mind for different resources and opportunities as that plan gets put into place. We're gonna meet, our next meeting is February 19th, which is a planning meeting we have in the field house right after drop off. So we'll debrief that meeting and then plan for our 2 upcoming forums. We're going to have a forum March 19th on parent groups, Peirce parent groups. And so we had kind of an initial meeting with the parent groups to talk about this idea. And we're going to meet a few more times to put together that forum. We won't need anything from you, Principal Sammy, or the administration for that one. It's looking like it's going to be a fireside chat with the parent group leaders. And then on May 21st, if the gym is available that day, we'll do a forum on student fees. And that I will be reaching out to Principal Amy and, for some support with that. I know the topic of student fees has come up, multiple times in this setting. So we'd like to be able to dig into that topic more in this forum. And see what we can do to make our student fees as equitable as possible. On our February 19th planning meeting, we are still taking new members. We've got 9 members currently. You don't have to be on the LSC to serve on the equity committee. We have a low barrier to entry. You just come to the next meeting, tell us why you want to join, and we'll vote you in. So everybody is welcome. We've said in our bylaws that we'll take up to 20 members, so we still have room for plenty more, and we could use some hands planning these next 2 forums. And then I also want to mention that the Hopley fundraiser was the first fundraiser that went through the equity committee before it went to LSC for approval. And after we met with FOP, the equity committee wrote a letter recommending to the LSC that the fundraising plan for the year go through equity committee first. And so we're working with FOP on that so that every year their plan for the year goes through equity committee before it comes to the LSC. And the Hopley event, which was a great success and had a lot more, was an equity-minded event in a lot of ways that had a low barrier to participation and was welcome to the whole community. So there were a lot of great things about that event, and it raised some money too. So that was a success, I think, kind of the FOP and equity committee partnership too. And I think that's it. I'm not seeing anything else to add.
Come to the forums.
I was just gonna ask the date again for the forums. Was it in March?
March 19th.
And that one's gonna be on parent groups.
Yes.
And then in May, maybe, you're not the tentative date, but it'll be
Tentatively the 21st.
21st, and it'll be around.
Student fees. And then February 19th is a planning meeting, and those are open as well. Open for public. Yeah.
8:15 field house.
Mm-hmm. Any questions? Next item is principal evaluation. So we're on track to launch it for during the month of March. I need to share with my fellow committee members the template so that we can see, because there's one that goes out to the students and parents, and then there's one that's supposed to go to the staff or teachers and staff. So I don't know if there's probably going to need to be a couple of tweaks there. But the idea is to send it out in March, review the results in April, and have that filed. All right. Next on the agenda, old business. Rocky, I didn't mean to put you on the spot there, but I am going to put you on the spot this evening. We can talk about that. The next one is the Cleaner Act statement. We're talking about that, and I think maybe Nicole, there was possibly the opportunity to kind of run that through the equity committee and see if there was, because I think the person attended
Yeah,
the meeting.
the parent attended the meeting, but I don't have their.
I'm not sure the contact. There's not really anything to update. It's so early in the
Yeah.
legislative process that
Okay.
there's been a lot going on in the last 2 weeks that it kind of felt like it lost some of its urgency.
Oh, okay.
Seeing everything that schools are dealing with.
But you're in touch with that parent?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, once it's open for public comment, I
Yes.
think we should like revisit it and see if we wanna
It's
push
actually
that to the
really nice.
community.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a while.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what we talked about last time.
Yeah.
Was whenever it goes public.
Yeah.
We can
Yeah.
round up
Exactly.
everyone and
Do
make
some-
some type of comment positively for it.
Sounds good. All right, new business. We have a few items here. First item is traffic on Bryn Mawr. So I shared a couple of emails that have come from a resident about traffic on Bryn Mawr. I think the main gist is, there's concerns around traffic safety and the like. So I think you provided an answer or response, but I don't know if you want to chat about that a little bit more.
Yeah, I can just share, so the neighbor that had sort of raised concern didn't realize that there's always been buses at Peirce.
Noticed that.
Yeah, since prior to me coming, we've actually had fewer buses, because Peirce used to be a hub for students to be picked up and then, going to other magnet schools, and then once the transportation issue happened with the district, they removed those. They just restarted it, so we have one bus that picks up, and I don't even know that, I haven't seen many students, I'm not sure exactly, I haven't been given my list of how many students get on or off the bus to go to Inter-American. But then this year is the first year that we have 3 preschool different buses that come for students who have IEPs. In the past, there's only been one bus, and then for a little while, they weren't using buses, they were using smaller cars. Like the smaller vans. So this year, we do have 3 buses that come at some point between 2:30 and 3:15. And they are stopped in front of the school for about a half hour until students are dismissed, depending on how early they get here. And that has led to like increased congestion at times. But we've always had that issue, so like this isn't like a brand new issue. And so I talked to security, they're gonna work towards trying to like, the issue right now is that cars will park in the bump out area, waiting to pick their kids up, which makes then the buses can't pull in to the bump out area. And so they're going to work to try and block off, which is gonna require human power, depending on what's going on in the school, may or may not be able to happen on a given day. They're gonna try and block off at like 2 o'clock cones, so that when the buses come, the buses can go into the bump out area. I did reach out to the Alderwoman's office to see if we could close Bryn Mawr going west in the afternoon. Have not yet received a response on that, because that's the other alternative. What we do in the morning is that, and that has alleviated a lot of the issues with the two-way traffic when you've got people parked, double parked, going around, like there's just a lot of challenges. So that's sort of where we're at right now. But it is a work in progress.
Why are the buses parked for 30 minutes?
Because they get here at 2:30, the kids don't leave till like 3 o'clock. Sometimes the bus comes late, and then they pick the students up. They should be able to like pick the kid up and leave.
Okay, so kids, students, they're like waiting for
Preschool
kids.
students.
Okay.
Or students with IEPs who have busing written into the IEP.
But did you say they reestablished where the Peirce is now a hub for other schools?
Yes, but those buses come like later, like those buses I don't think are as big of an issue as the ones that are picking up our students.
Because this morning I remember what is the person who's also on the LSC council?
Adolfo?
Oh, yeah, he was outside and we were talking, so there was like a really large, like the full-scale buses that were outside, so I wonder if those are Peirce or those
Yeah,
are the,
those are the ones that are dropping off like preschool students. And it takes a little while because they have like a bus monitor on it that has to bring the student in. There has to be a hand-to-hand handoff with the student and our staff. So there is time where there's the bus driver on the bus, but like, they can't move because of that need to be in.
And the buses going to Inter-American,
They're not staying long.
What has changed in the neighbors that are maybe work from home now versus before, so.
Yeah, I mean, like even you were talking about stopping traffic going west on Bryn Mawr at certain times. The comment that I had gotten from folks that actually live across is that then people go into the alley and then turn around and it's been, like you said, it's been an ongoing issue, so like, it's not clear to me how we resolve that.
We're a school, there's gonna be traffic at pick up and drop off.
That's right. I mean, people do U-turns right there, like, the kids crossing, there's all of that happening.
I think the only way to address that is if the city changed the traffic pattern. We can't change the number of people who come here.
Right.
right?
The concern around daywalk crossing. I don't think that's gonna, I don't think there's anything that Peirce as a community can do to become traffic cops. And there's nothing you can do short of changing the direction of the street, which that's a city issue. If
You'd have to if you wanted to push, because we're direct that way to the drive. So because Passages closed it, and so for months, that's how I got on, Passages closed it, and so I get there, and then I call them, you can't do that. And so they just like closed it, because they felt like closing it. They were in the process of doing a traffic study in the office, and I think it just kind of fizzled out. So, because we're a direct path to Bryn Mawr.
Yeah.
Bryn Mawr is a direct path to
Right,
the
right,
drive. I don't
yeah.
think they can close it.
That's right.
That's what I was told.
What was the next step that you mentioned? Just so I can put it in the notes.
The security is trying to block the bump outs to prevent cars from parking there so that the buses can park in there. But we may need to purchase more cones in order to do that. So we're trying to assess, Ivan is gonna go out there and try and figure out how to make this work.
you might need signs that say bus only from this time to this time. Not that anyone in this organization can picket somebody, but it helps.
Are we short on crossing guards? Because I've noticed looking at them and pick up Gregory and Clara, so right there by understudy. Seems like 2 or 3 times there hasn't been a guard there. You get
There's no formally assigned crossing guard. So in the morning, we have a parent volunteer who's there, who's also a paid crossing guard at another school. But that corner is not a like official crossing guard spot.
It seems like a lot of kids at the crossing right there.
We have one at Bryn Mawr.
Yes.
And
there is
then
one.
Glenwood Park, Glenwood, Bryn Mawr, Broadway, Bryn Mawr, Ridge, and Glenwood.
Oh,
Are you able to shift? Because I know Glenwood and Braemar, there was 2 guards there.
No, there's one, and then one
staff.
staff member
Yeah,
that
staff
covers
member,
it.
okay.
Yeah, it's true.
But the crossing guard will close the street, which is why we've got our staff.
You have staff for that.
We don't really have staff yet because Ivan going outside means that we don't have security at the desk. We've been fortunate that on many days, the district has just said, like, we have a standby security officer who, when there's not a need in another school, they just let him come here. And there's been quite a few days that he's been here for like the whole of the day. So then it's not so difficult because we have 2 people. It will be challenging with Ivan having to do that and support the main entrance.
How does that work?
So that's what we want to
Okay.
assess.
And then for making the street one way in the afternoon, like it is in the morning, which we will just after that, or
That would not be as big of an issue.
how would it work?
It's easy, because you just have somebody stand there at like 2:55, close the street, east traffic goes, and then open the street at like 3:10. 3:15.
And you're thinking one way the same way that it is in the morning?
Because of the buses. That's like the fastest and easiest.
Yeah, that's the first solution. Is it the alderman that needs to approve it, or?
That's what would happen in the past.
None of it is formal.
And then, but then we also had to, put it out in communications, the alderman at the time, newsletter included that information to the community that this was happening, that the community was aware.
And it's just like a 30 minutes or so.
Morning, it's, 20 minutes, afternoon, I really think it's like 2:55 to 3:10, and then like 15 minutes should be good enough. That's when the bulk of the traffic around the school is going.
So the phone that all equipment, right, is it multiple neighbors or one person and never communicate back with one person? Is it what's in our control? Is it not what's in our control and see what they say?
It's one person, but it is a concern. So like I've observed it and it is a concern. Like you've got people that are upset with each other. Today I saw like a snowplow trying to come down as you've got buses there and people trying to go west and then no one can move. And then it's just like, eventually it like works its way out, but it's not easy. So like, it is a concern. But it's always just sort of works its way out.
I do think that the public safety announcements from the school, from the principal, make a difference to a point, that even though the school can't enforce traffic, reminding parents to walk, take traffic. I think when those announcements go out.
Well, I think this came up last year, right? It's a chronic public safety issue. Was it U-turns last year? I don't remember. Yeah.
U-turns are still happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it improved for a while, though, right?
That's why I don't necessarily agree that the public messaging helps. I feel like I still see the same issues happening.
I mean, some of that traffic is also not necessarily Peirce related. It's people coming, going through.
Correct.
And they
I've
don't.
seen many times there's large trucks that have got no business going down Bryn Mawr and they come off the Lakeshore Drive, which they shouldn't be on Lakeshore Drive, and then they just go straight, and they should never be on this street.
Really cause.
But that's
really
a,
scary.
I was like maybe a month ago I saw when he got stuck in the intersection at drop off and just shut down all traffic. The truck, he couldn't go forward, he couldn't go backward. It was very, very large, like a commercial truck. And the traffic backed all the way up to Broadway. And he couldn't move. No one would let him move. He couldn't go anywhere. No one could get around him. He was just stuck. But that's not something at this level. That is a city level thing. So, I understand requesting to do a little traffic control. I do think that helps, but anything beyond that, that is, I don't think it's streets and sands. I don't know who does traffic control. That's a matter of, you need to change the traffic pattern. What are the rules on the street? And short of that, you're going to keep experiencing the same thing.
So you have ability to ask for redirection of some of those buses that are using the school as a hub, like to a place that has a official parking lot or something?
Yeah, that's not even the issue right now. Like that's like maybe
But still a bus passes through, which.
one bus that like stops for a brief period of time and goes. in the past, we had multiple buses coming, and that was
I remember
very
that,
challenging.
it could be a row of them picking up and dropping off to go to
Yeah.
all
Because
the
I was thinking like San
choices.
Francisco, I'm sure they have parking lot where.
There.
It's much worse than here.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Glenwood is a nightmare.
yeah.
And you just can't.
I didn't know you could have an internal parking lot where.
No, they have like very little parking on the side. Nobody really uses that. Everybody wants to go plow through Glenwood, and there's parking on both sides of Glenwood. Yeah, I mean, it's a daily occurrence that I see a rear view mirror, sort of like be a victim of, of traffic there. That sentence is hard. All right, well, thank you for the response. I think, I think we're still working on that. Since we have updates, we can share with the person. All right. Next item here, this is a general topic addressing bullying. I mean, Sonia, you have brought that up. I don't want to put you on the spot there, but like in terms of like, is there something specific that we wanted to bring up? I know that sometimes, or I know that in Lori's communications, there's we have sort of like steps or what to do if there's instances of bullying, but I don't know if there's something more specific we wanted to chat through. I just put that there as a placeholder.
Well, I think she's understanding the voice for some parents, which did not want me to mention their names, but they had some concerns due to their own kids being bullied. And one of the parents said she's been working with the teacher and consistently the kid is still getting bullied after that, talking to the teacher, whatever person was taking is still happening. As is with other parents, and I even tried to tell the parents, like, some of the parents I really don't know, so maybe they just know my face from familiarity, but I convinced them to just come to the meeting so they can do public participation, voice their concerns. They chose me to come to them, mention it, that it's a huge issue for them, as well as when I came to the Valentine's Day, I met some parents from there, which I really didn't know they was going to join. Like, I know it's Peirce preschool, but I had some parents there, just generally talking and things lead up to come up. And we started to talk, and they're having those same issues, even with the small pre-kids. And just like, they wanted me to say it, but I asked them for permission if I can speak about that. But of course, they would like me to do that. If they want to see this done, then there's some parents that when I talk to them and ask them why don't they come and, utilize their voice to speak themselves, and I said, well, they believe that doing that is not going to help them. I don't know what it means, but they feel like it won't help. If they come share it, it's not going to go anywhere. Be back where we started, nothing will happen. And there's a lot of parents that can't make these type of meetings to be here. So I don't know how that's going to change for them, but they can't be here whether it's the morning, they just can't due to work. So of course the presidency is looking into to work here. So that's, I did say I would mention it. So of course, I'm not personally having any issues with my kids, but I just thought I would do it. It's only fair, they are parents at the school as well as their kids. So I don't know how to move that. I just thought I'd bring it here. If this is not the place for it, I apologize for that, but I did say I would bring it here. Maybe to get to the proper channels it needs to, so you can see some sense of resolution, if it's okay or safe for that.
Yeah.
So I had a chance to talk with Sophie yesterday and sort of understand more about the concerns. And what I had shared is, it is good to work with the teacher is the first measure, to try and understand sort of what's happening. If the issue is a bullying allegation, that is something that should be brought to the school administration so that we can launch a formal bullying investigation. So sometimes people will use bullying when it's like a pure conflict or a negative interaction that happens between students, and it may not always be bullying as the definition of bullying. Then there are things that are bullying as the definition of bullying. But if there is a perception that bullying is happening, we have a formal process that we have to follow. And so I understand that some people don't feel comfortable raising concerns. I had shared that we have the anonymous box, the comment box as a tool, and then people can also report directly to the district. as another form. But yeah, bringing like individual student issues to the LSC is not appropriate because then we get into like student confidentiality. The LSC doesn't actually like follow up on student issues. Like that's not like an action that happens among the LSC, that happens amongst the school. And so I would just encourage like all parents and LSC members that if parents are saying that there are concerns with their child or, like another child, to encourage that information to come to us. And some people have like met with like school administration with a parent that they feel comfortable meeting with as well as a way to like help advocate and support. But we do take like all allegations of bullying seriously and do have a formal process that we have.
What is the formal process? Bullying is consistent, repeated, right, targeting. So how does that look like from a parent's perspective? They talk to the teacher, they establish it's chronic, then what?
So like that doesn't need to be established at the teacher. It's
Okay.
just that my child is like experiencing
Yeah.
something. I think it's bullying and I wanted to investigate. And so there is like a process that includes entering the incident into Aspen, sending notification that a bullying investigation is being launched, interviews with students, interviews with staff members, trying to like understand what's at the root of the situation. And then there's criteria that we have to look at and determine if that criteria is met. And then there's a formal follow-up that happens where it says that the bullying was founded or unfounded. Sometimes there's a creation of a safety plan. Sometimes there's a support plan, even if bullying was not founded, but the concern is one that we still want to, have like more of a supportive plan in place to minimize the negative peer interactions that students are having. And there would also be like parent follow-up is happening with that as well.
Just put it as an anecdote, something that helps, just bringing parents to talk to each other. I don't know if there's a process for that. I've always been.
We don't bring parents together. We find that
So I've had the opposite. where
can be very problematic at times, depending on the dynamics among parents.
That's true. But I think sometimes it does work. I believe sometimes it completely doesn't work. And it's a matter of, maybe it's an invitation, whether or not the invitation should be extended or not, but in just personal experience, I've been able to talk to other parents and, tell your kid not to do that to that kid. And it's like, oh, I'm sorry. Well, and just, it's over at the end of that. But you're right. There are some parents who are completely not receptive to that. But I do think there are plenty of times where just if the other parents knew. But yeah, it definitely, it depends on the personalities.
Another comment that you made, that the parent said that they weren't comfortable coming forward because they didn't believe something would be done to make a difference. To me, I think that's problem because if there was repeated evidence that this has happened, she or he has come forward and nothing has been done, I'm concerned about that. But we want to inspire confidence that if there are issues happening, parents should come forward to the right staff administration to try to figure the bottom of it. I don't know whether it's just one parent or is that a common feeling. I hope it's not common feeling, but it's something that concerns me.
I just say it's the working process. It's not the easiest when you're dealing with bullying, because sometimes the teachers get to the parents do have the opportunity to speak to their kids. The kids might clean up, and hear their parents say, that's not what we're going to do at school. And the kid will have a great week or two, come back, you can get back to the same spot. So it's just going to take you to be consistent about it, to keep doing it over and over and over. I mean, it's hard to say. There are some kids, once the parents, like you said, certain kids, certain parents, once they say things, speak to their children, it stops. Because we have the ones who speak to them over and over. It's just not gonna stop.
That's a hard one.
You just don't know who's gonna do it, like, I mean, I don't want to isolate and point things out, but I do know out of some of the parents in the company have said that, you know, they have those conversations with the teacher, and I can't, for me, for them telling me they have those conversations with the teacher, and they notice change, but then it happens again, we can't say that the teacher didn't do something, so which was taught to the kids, or perhaps taught to the parents. The kid comes back, I mean, it's a question of, you actually start to get the teacher not good at it. The parent can tell you that the teacher intervened, it was good, maybe a week or two, and it happened again, then,
Well, I'm wondering, because the parents tell me the same thing, and I don't really know what I'm supposed to do. So I'm wondering if one thing that we can advocate for is to say, have you talked to the teacher? Is there a formal investigation started? Those are the things that you can expect to happen, and if that's not happening, then maybe that's a whole other conversation.
I always say something when they talk to the teacher, I never push it to those, like, the investigation part, I'm shocked to that one, but I definitely always go to the teachers, and from my own experience, I always, you know, I'm getting some meat around parents, I might not remember their names, but I know my faces, these kids belong to, so if I have an issue, I kind of take it another way if I see the parents. I haven't had that one parent that's not free to conversate with. I'm sure there are some that may not be, but for the most part, the ones that I've spoken to, they've been pretty good. Pretty active about, you know, talking to their kids, expressing how you feel about your kids, and I'm sure that's how they feel about theirs. I haven't had any trouble. I mean, when I talk to principal, she's really good at addressing things, you know, she's here. And I just suggest maybe like if there's some sort of something in school, like these kids to constantly hear, like maybe have some time with teachers and just, I don't know, just talk about, hey, bullying, be nice to our friends when we're in school. And bullying is not always a form of physical, it's a form of verbal as well. And maybe the kids hear it enough, you know, just maybe change some, probably change law.
We do have that like built within our SEL scope and sequence, like we have a bullying unit, like as a standalone unit that is also like viewed throughout the year. Some of it is like kids, especially in the younger grades.
Overgeneralizing.
Yeah, like they're like learning to navigate the world, and so there's a lot of like social skill development that is happening as children are young, and so that's another thing to keep in mind is the age of students, which is like something that is also considered when like allegations of bullying are happening. Like, are kids really aware of their actions upon others? But I mean, like the teachers do a lot of teaching of skill. Some of it is that like it's inevitable that there's going to be conflict. It's how do we like work to address the conflict?
I'm wondering if this has come up to me in the last couple of weeks too, and it's the first time I can remember hearing the term bullying investigation. I hadn't come across that, or I don't recall coming across that before this month. So I'm wondering, like, do we want to put something in the newsletter about like, here's what you can do if you suspect bullying, just try to empower folks a little bit because I can feel like so helpless and lonely when you're going through this.
The challenge, so yes, we can continue to message that.
Yeah.
The challenge is that it's rare that we have a founded bullying investigation. So bullying is like overused as a word to describe conflict that's happening amongst students.
Right.
And so I think it's like being able to like clearly define what is bullying.
Yeah. I guess maybe the other part is then if you want to escalate peer-to-peer conflict, like beyond the teacher, that's what you do, like giving those steps and answers.
Something to your point, that actually been approached about a group of parents that want to come and bring the same example from the LSC.
The fact that I would just sit here and none of us are talking about it is obvious that it's definitely an issue. Something, I mean, I feel helpless. And he comes to me this year, I'm thinking, not really new anymore, but I'm still kind of in new era being on the LSC, so I'm just like, I mean, maybe I'm just a comfortability in the space or comfortable space for them to feel like, you know, and I feel bad when I hear that. Who wants to hear their kids being bullied, picked on, or called nasty names? It's not the right time. It's never a good time to consider so many things going outside of that. Society itself, just need to ask questions, it's not need for the kids, because it's gonna affect them. It can affect them with their education. If these things are happening in C1, it's gonna affect how they study, and then take a test, and you'll think they don't know it. And they really do. It's just that this greater issue that kids are being mean and just.
Yeah. We're about to talk about the pride letter and the solidarity letter, and I think this weaves into that. Like, I think we can establish that schools are incredibly complex ecosystems. We're talking about ventilation and traffic and, you know, all of these big things. But I think what really this comes down to is if you don't feel like you're in a safe environment, you cannot learn. So it gets down to teaching and learning in essence. Like, are these students who come to school feeling bullied, whether it's because of their gender identity or race, they're not accessing much learning in that space. They are probably dysregulated most of the day. I just feel like it's impacting, I'm sure, a lot of students in how much they can actually access instruction. And I don't have any answers for that, but I think the reason why I want to name that is because all of these issues are considered woke. And I'm sure there's people in our community that are like, why are we talking about these things? And to me, I just want to name it's because it impacts how much a student can actually access learning on a day-to-day.
So I want to put another light on it. There's definitions, whether through state code or city code or whatever, on specifically bullying. And then there's repeated targeted behavior. And then there's just a regular spectrum of personalities. And some people are just more aggressive than others. And what you brought up is kids are still learning how to behave. And you got someone who's just naturally more aggressive and just doesn't understand. That's my example. It's just because you like someone doesn't mean you can always wrestle with them. And it's not targeted. It's not textbook bullying, but it is aggressive behavior that makes someone uncomfortable. And I think in that case, it's a very different route of, there isn't a set process for investigating, one kid's more energetic than another kid, but there still is just general, the Army word was assimilation. It's just proper behavior within the institution. Yeah, social norms is a great way to put it. You're 6 years old and you're excited about it and you just need to learn. You there are certain kids who want to wrestle with you and others that don't. And whether it's malicious or not malicious, it's just learning. You can't wrestle with everybody.
I will say 2 weeks ago, on the playground at school, there were 2 parents that answered words. One of the parents was pretty good at getting her word across. And you had that aggressive, if I may use that word. It's really aggressive. And yet that parent was the parent of the child that was bullied. And that parent was really aggressive. I was thinking like, well, I see that picture, kind of made me feel what that's the kid is learning that behavior in the home, because here this other parent is trying to be gentle and calm and saying, if you talk to your kid, y'all continuously doing this to my kid. And right away that parent's like, your kid must be guilty too, because my kid will not do that. If your kid was not doing that to my kid, I'm just like, I can't. That made me understand why CPS said to not mix the parents together for altercations like that. At least then you got some good parents who really know how to communicate really well and great examples in front of the kids, but granted, anger goes a lot of ways. Some parents, I don't think they see the rest of these kids. You are talking about my kid, that parent became so aggressive to the point that one parent can say, she threw her hands up and won't, like, you know what, I'm not doing this. Whatever, that was it. And I really, you can see some of the kids that some of the parents couldn't talk about it because actually out there, well, not now it's snow, but if you're out there after school, you would see a lot of kids there before, but I think you so after school, you can see some of the kids that the parents are having an issue. You see the kids, and I'm just like, these kids are out there with their parents. Their parents is right there, like, it's going, but I guess, again, parents are concerned when you come across the aggressive. How do you diffuse that when you see how they behave in other instances, when other parents come tell them about their kids, and that's the way they're acting. So it makes you feel like, forget it. And how do they need their parents to go home and think in their head, like, now, how do I tell my kids to address this? If they're going to keep being bullied, see their parents acting being bullied. It's just concerning what is the parent, the next level for that parent, or they have that notion to say, just forget it. Forget it. What makes the parent feel like, I see where I get it from, so, yeah. Well, the kids, most of the kids they love school, so they're gonna come, and it's just sad to have them sit there and have that, or see those same kids that are doing that behavior to other kids, even the parents at home telling their kids, tell them, stop doing it, like that. You're gonna make them just that much afraid to say it. If that same kid is doing it to another kid, now this kid is really scared. You know what? I know my mom and dad told me to tell them that's not the case. But when you see them doing it again to another kid, the kid is really not gonna say anything. They just sit there and deal with it. And depending on how their parents approach the situation at home, if you're too, if you show your anger to the kid, but you're mad that you're allowing it to happen. I had to learn that myself. Yeah, my voice was rich because I was more angry, and I was I was more kids bothering anybody, but I had to learn from my own example how to approach the situation with my kids. As hard as it was, I had to learn to be gentle because they're watching me. It's usually kids want to do what you say not to do. So if you watch your mom, I'm like, wait, her mom's ready to go there. Put her gloves on. I don't want that. My kids are sweet, and I don't want to change their personality. I don't want them to become something that they're not. They don't need to be me, they need to be them. Like I said, I'm glad my kids aren't having. I talk to a lot of parents. A lot of parents be knowing that I don't know them, especially because they have Kaya this way. He's pop or something. It's like, your house guys, I'm like, is that a good thing? And they're like, yeah, it's good. So, I guess I'm talking, maybe if some of those parents are having those issues, just again, some of the ones that are aggressive, but just keep trying. You can't give up. And the kids are still here. Just work on our needs. Just gotta work together. Keep trying. And I know some parents are experiencing it. They're just like exhausted. They're just tired, frustrated. Like they just don't want to do it. We gotta find a way to leave them. Just keep trying like everybody else. And hopefully you'll get that.
My one final comment on this is, again, providing a sense of no tolerance for anything for the student safety to your point, I think is our main goal here. We cannot change parents at home, we cannot change society. Our job here is to protect the student and advance their education. So I think having a process that parents can follow and get that sense of safety and that we are here to help them. I think that's what we can do. And just keep it simple, and that we are here to support you, educate your kids, and protect the safety. So we can't go beyond that. So,
I appreciate the space to talk about how do we ensure Peirce is a safe and loving environment, especially in the context that we're living in.
yeah, I think I like the idea of these values, right? To constantly reinforce that we have no tolerance for this, regardless of what's happening outside this school.
Yeah,
And so,
in a
yeah.
proactive way.
Yeah.
Stealing is
I
fun.
mean, that's just what's gonna require, just to not tolerate it. I don't care how many times it happens, we need to show that we will not tolerate it. And that's what we stand for.
And also acknowledge how difficult it is. Like young children just having disagreements and having different temperaments and aggression levels and learning how to be in school, all that stuff is not simple or straightforward.
So yeah, I also appreciate the space, and I know this is an important topic, and I appreciate Sonia's like call to keep trying. I think this is something we don't have a right here, right now solution for, so I was going to propose that we move on to the next agenda item.
Very good. Yeah, no, I think just to close out, I think thanks for bringing this up. I think we just continue to encourage the parents to start at the basis of this, which is reaching out to the teachers and use us, if they're more comfortable doing so. We want to make sure that if there are issues that are brought up, and like Lori said, there is a process in place. I don't want people to think that, I'm just going to test the waters and let you know that this is happening and not get the feeling that there is support from the community, starting with the administration and the staff. So I think that's what I want to make sure that we emphasize, that there is support and people's concerns are valid and that they need to be addressed. So.
Yeah, final comment, even if we don't have a solution, I think gathering additional data to help us get to the bottom of this, I think helps. For example, which grade is this happening? How young are the kids, right? Is it constantly the same class, 5 different classes? I think that data will help get us to potential options for solution. So I don't know the best way to collect that data, or if the school already collects such data on bullying and investigation and so forth. But I don't want to create unnecessary process without more insight.
Can we see how many bullying requests or reports by parents have been made so far?
I mean, bullying allegations of.
Yes,
Yeah, we can quantify that, like what we have as reported.
All right. Thank you, Nicole, for bringing us back to the next couple items there. If you want to take those.
Oh, sure. So Bergen spoke very eloquently about the Pride letter and the importance of it in our community. I know some of us have already signed on as individuals to that letter. In order to sign on as a body, as the LSC, we need to have a vote on that. So I sent this letter around to everybody a couple days ago, I think, in solidarity with our LGBTQ community, and would like to motion that we sign on to the letter. And I'm wondering if I could also motion to have Peirce send out an email like with this topic, like a specific email on this topic with the letter.
If we were to take that on as an LSC, do we want to put in sign as Peirce LSC, or do we want to list the members? How would that make?
So
What are the
this would be to
mechanics
sign
of
it as
that?
Peirce LSC. So we don't have to vote to sign anything as individuals, but to sign it on as Peirce LSC, we would need a majority vote. And the other parent organizations that Bergen mentioned have voted to sign on. They can vote over email, or they don't have such a rigorous policy for around voting, so we have to wait for this meeting to be able to take that vote.
Can I ask how this is different than what was already sent out last Friday? The letter was already shared with the community.
In the SMORE?
Yeah. It was shared via SMORE last Friday.
Right. So I think there's the ask from the Pride caregivers to send out like a special email with when the LSC also endorses it.
So to send it out twice?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, no, I think, we as an organization did that. Number one, set it up as its own thing. It will be read more, and more people see it and understand it. And it's also, quite frankly, a sign of solidarity with schools supports this community, by sending it out. So my question would be like, what prevents us from sending it out as a standalone email to the community?
Absolutely, I agree with that. And I'd also say, you know, we're in a really, really unique moment right now in relation to trans kids. Something has happened that has never happened before on the executive orders where their very right to exist is being threatened. And some schools around the country have sent out these independent statements, much like Peirce did with the immigration letter, sending it out separately to the school, and it demonstrates this is unprecedented. You may be feeling alone, scared, worried for your life, worried that you're no longer welcome in the public space of the school, but we are with you, and you can still come to school and be yourself. And I know a lot of families are worried about that right now at Peirce. And seeing a standalone email, a lot of people don't read through the whole smart update. Seeing a standalone email with that on the subject line, similar to the previous email that went out primarily about immigration, I think would give a little bit of that validation and affirmation and support that people need in this moment. So I put that out there, and it's a small gesture, but it's really meaningful. I mean, just the way people are feeling right now, it's like getting that in your inbox and thinking, even though at all these other levels of society and being told I don't exist, you know, for people in the position and the specifically trans and gender trans community, like at the school, I'm being told like I'm seen and my existence is seen. I think that would be
Thank you both, and I'll just add to Edgewater, as I'm sure folks know, but I just want to say it has arguably the highest LGBTQ population in the city, even more than Boys Town. So I think it makes a lot of sense for our school community to be leading on this topic.
Yeah, I guess I agree that like a statement is important and it's needed. What I'm struggling with is that like the initial letter came to me, was requested that it be sent out, it was sent out. And now there's like a second request sort of like afterwards with now bringing on all like other groups to it. And so what I had shared when it had come is that we're limited via SMORE with how many like emails we can send out based on like our database. And like with the volume of like it's prevented us from sending emails in the past because we've reached a limit and then we have to wait to be able to send the next one. I can send it via Aspen, that's fine. Like that, we don't have like a limit on. But I'm concerned that, so like there's like the logistical piece of this and like how we use like the systems. It is important that this is communicated, and it was. And then
I think there might have been miscommunication because we did initially ask for it to be shared and then asked for clarification if it could be shared as a standalone or in a SMORE. And when we responded and said that it could be sent in a SMORE, we did ask for the full minute so that we could get more support for that.
After it was like I'm not checking my email around the clock. So like that would seem like after it was sent.
And then my question would be, logistically, if it's hard, how do we make it happen? Because what I'm hearing is you're saying it's not important enough for us to send a standalone.
What I'm saying is that I can send it as a standalone via Aspen with no issue. That can happen. And that's gonna reach the, like, school community. Yes, it won't go, like, there's extra people that are also in SMORE that are not in our Aspen database.
What extra people?
Like, there are people that have just like signed up for SMORE, like, for the last like 9 years, for instance.
Oh, so Aspen is just like
It's just the
parents?
current students at the school
Okay. just-
and their families.
Okay.
For example,
So like
I get
Lamont
small,
gets SMORE,
because I'm
but
not
he
a
wouldn't
parent,
get
yeah.
the Aspen.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that seems fine. Like, all we're asking for is for this to go out to the whole school.
The school.
Yeah, so like it can go out via Aspen with no issue.
Yeah, regardless of what system it goes out through, the ask was just for it to be a standalone email.
Yeah. Okay, so I read it as, can it go out as a standalone email via SMORE? Which is where like the challenge becomes in like the usage of SMORE and how many emails we can send. Sending as a standalone via Aspen can happen.
Yeah, I mean, as long as it's going to the school.
Is the SMORE limit like a monthly limit or?
Yes.
Okay.
And then it like resets.
Okay. I'm wondering then if it, if it needs to wait the next month, if that's like, if we've reached our limit for this month, so like hold it till next month so that it could go out to the wider.
Yeah, I can look to see where we're at because with the Know Your Rights and then the Hop Leave, like those were two like additional
Standalones, yeah.
emails.
Yeah.
So I can see like where we're at, like if, can it wait till March? I don't know, like the urgency and like,
Yeah.
how much do you want to wait till March? Is February 12th, it's still a couple weeks away.
What's the number of people who receive emails via SMORE versus Aspen? Like, what would
It's
the-
hard to tell how many are, I don't know, because I don't know how many are like duplicative between the systems.
Okay. Yeah,
So
I guess I
Aspen-
just, oh, okay.
Sorry, Aspen is the school itself. So anybody that has a student that attends the school will receive Aspen communication or communication via Aspen. S'mores, if you moved into the neighborhood and you were interested in the school, you put your name in as a recipient of these communications that go in on a regular basis. And so that includes folks that could be, transient or that were here for a couple of months and just happen to be curious about the school.
Community members.
And then, people who live in the greater community. That's the only difference between the two. I think
Okay,
reaching out to the school community for me is important because we're doing this for the school, right? And I think if there's a way for that to happen that way, I don't want to, like Lori said, do we want to wait that long until the s'mores reset, or is it okay to just send it out now?
so for example, we just got an email from Mr. Lee, Black History Month Showcase on Friday. That's via Aspen?
Correct.
Okay.
That's right.
So for Peirce, like Pride caregivers, is there a preference?
So we were not told that there was an option to send it out via Aspen. The sequence of events was we sent it in, then we asked for it to be held because we sent it in, we asked whether it could be sent via standalone versus in the newsletter. In this morning's letter, we were told it would be one in the newsletter, and then we asked for it to be held. But it went out in the newsletter. We're asking for it to be sent as a standalone, as Bergen explained. We didn't realize that there was an option to send it out via a different system that wasn't similar. So we didn't have a conversation about Aspen versus SMORE. I mean, I didn't even know you could send something out through Aspen.
So is there a preference today, or would your group need to decide, like, if you
Yeah,
want it out in
I
Aspen
think-
sooner, or if you want it out in SMORE next month? Is there?
Yeah, so all the SMORE emails are used up aside from the weekly ones, is that it?
Yeah, so we get like a certain number of credits, like certain number of email addresses that we can send on a monthly basis.
So now the only ones left are for the weekly ones for the remainder of that. So, Yeah, I mean, I think in order for that to do, I would just need to know, like, A, whether LSC is signing on, and then B, what's the difference in age between foreign and Aspen?
I don't have that.
Okay,
Like, I don't have that.
so I'll motion for the LSC to sign on to the Pride letter and then for it to go out to the school community in either Aspen or S'more in March, depending on what the Pride group prefers. Do I have a second?
Okay, before we motion, I just want to say something. I feel like obviously there is some miscommunication about what each email does, but I don't feel it's fair to accuse the principal of taking this as not important. I feel like, the fact that you guys are here presenting it, she did send an email. Obviously, there was miscommunication of Aspen versus small. But characterizing it as an not important, I don't feel like that's the correct word to use.
Good, a motion and a second.
Who's the second?
So we've got approval of the letter and then approval to disseminate, and the method will get figured out later, whether it's Aspen is the best, S'more is the best, Aspen today, S'more tomorrow, that can be resolved. But I guess the vote is, does everyone think that's cool?
Right, that's the content. So do we agree as a body to put in the LSC, the Peirce LSC as a signer to the letter? I think that's what
That's a good way to put it. Is the LSC want the LSC, not the individual people, to be a signatory to the statement.
Right.
And I think that right there, that's a motion.
And there's the timing of sending it out and the method. Right, so there's three issues here, I see, right? Do we
I
agree
don't
that?
think that needs to be decided by the LSC.
Right.
Okay,
Right,
that's
yeah, I
that's
think
why,
that's a
so
logistics
we need to
thing.
clarify that. What are we deciding? Are we co-signing this, putting LSC on it? Is that the motion? That's what I was second.
The motion is for the LSC to sign on to the letter and for the letter to go out as a standalone email
Yeah, and we can
by
trust.
one of these two methods,
Right.
depending on whichever the Pride group prefers and is logistically impossible for administration.
Yeah, let's just trust in the administration to operate in ways that are just outside of our knowledge and skill.
Is it for both letters or just the?
That's for the Pride
Or
letter.
just the-
So I'm fair with that. It's just, agree or disagree that we want to sign it and allow it to be disseminated through administrative methods. And we have,
has to be signed by everybody on the LSC?
so I think it's just, it says this is the LSC versus the individual people.
So if the majority of the LSC votes to sign on to this letter, it'll be signed by the Peirce LSC. So it won't have names
Because
on it.
individual
It'll be signed
people
by the
can
LSC.
already sign as they feel fit.
It doesn't mean 100% of the group voted to sign on. It means we voted to pass the motion.
We ready?
Do you want me to read out loud what I wrote?
Yeah.
Okay, and Nicole motions to approve LSC Council formal signature on Pride Peirce Solidarity Letter and disseminate letter to entire Peirce community as standalone email. That sound right?
That's correct.
Seconded by Lisa, and I can see it on your screen.
Thank you for that. All in favor? Very good. Thank you. Next item.
Motion passes?
Motion passes.
All right, thank you all. The next item is a solidarity letter with our new arrivals in our school and our immigrant community in light of, again, the attacks of the current administration in DC. This letter was signed by all of our parent groups and some of us as individuals and has already gone out as a standalone email from the Peirce administration. So that's not kind of part of the question. The question here today is, do we want to sign on to it as a body?
So I will motion to sign, for the LSC to sign on to the solidarity letter as a body.
So what am I understanding, the letter already went out, or it has not?
The letter went out with like a parent group signing it and individuals signing it on the LSC, but not signed by the LSC because we had a meeting to vote on it.
So,
So it would be, the motion is to add a Peirce LSC to the letter
Without resending it out.
without resending it out necessarily.
So just it goes into the minutes of the LSC, that the LSC has supported it.
And if that letter is ever, distributed by other groups or, will be on there.
Yeah, it's just make it more formal. Like the LSC as a body agreed to put itself as a signatory.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right. Next item is any other items that we'd like to see added to the next meeting. I think we talked about the approval of the minutes. We'll work on that. The approval of the internal accounts for December and January. Those are the two items that I had here.
So I want to say, is it worth having a discussion about the small account? And does it become a limiting factor more often? Is it worth having a discussion and say, I have no idea if it's just, we're on the $500 plan and we need a $1,000 plan. I have no idea.
It also sounds like S'more is not a vendor of the board. I pay for S'more out of my own pocket on an annual basis because it is a convenient platform to use. So
It feels like we're living in this insane context where we have to be extremely proactive about our values. So yeah, maybe this might be ongoing.
So then, we could also say we're not using S'more, we're just using Aspen.
Maybe.
And then we just don't have this list of people that want.
Yeah. Also ask, I have no idea.
Aspen formatting is not ideal. There's a lot of
But
terms
then,
to utilizing Aspen.
but you have people like me who don't have kids here.
Right.
Correct.
So
You won't see it.
I have 400 people at my gym, and 90% of them don't have kids. So if they choose to have kids, and large population of my gym is LGBTQ.
Yeah.
So if they're part of this community, and if me as a community board member and a sponsor of Peirce, what am I sponsoring if I'm not even included?
So I think that right there means it's worth talking about. Maybe there's another way to fund it. Let's just put it on the agenda for next month and just see is there a way to solve it outside of just continuously coming out of your pocket? Because it does seem like it's useful. So let's talk about it for next
Or
meeting.
it's like constant contact. Is that similar?
There also might be families that did the open house at Peirce and want to know more about school, so they sign on to the S'more newsletter, and then that's how they learn about the culture of the school.
Yeah, personally, I find it useful since moving here, and we did a school tour about 2 years ago. And as I'm not a parent yet, I think there needs to be a way to keep the broader community engaged, and information is currency, as we know right now. So I think it's worthwhile finding a way to fund it or find a different solution that we can afford. So I agree with putting on the topic for next month or another month to find a better solution for you, principal search. Because I think it's important for the community. I benefit from it.
Sounds good. Third item. Anything else? Good.
If we have time on the agenda next month, or it could be a month later. I want to talk about AI, working technology, and there's a lot happening in AI right now. We just wanted to discuss what are we doing about it in the school setting? And
That is a big topic.
no, I just
You wanna
Start
know,
the,
like,
start the dialogue and find ways
Nick is gonna introduce that concept.
to
and then we're
integrate,
gonna
yeah.
Iterate.
Should we do a smaller?
We can.
I think that needs to be an equity forum or a forum of itself,
good-
like that is a
Yeah.
great
Yeah.
topic,
Yeah.
like, I.
Yeah.
Well,
It's a-
I'll
it could
find
be an
another
academic
forum, it
tool.
may be, but I just feel strongly that things are moving really fast, and we have to keep up with the times, and this is just taking over, so. I'll find another forum, but this is not the right forum.
I think PBLC could be a great
Okay.
forum.
There is potential for educational tools.
Yeah, I think
But there is just as much potential for harm to students, so.
Yeah, no, there's it's a lot that
but you should.
I bet your student use it, so even like now, or even like when
But
you're.
no, there's
You
a
get
lot
to-
out there.
Like when you're grading stuff, right now the problem is reading.
There's a lot,
How are you even doing writing?
there's a lot to be.
Students just go and use AI to write papers, right? So how do we keep a sense of integrity and teach what's important, but leveraging technology, right? I think is a tricky
We've been
area.
having this conversation among the leadership team, and the use of AI and the district has put out like guidance, but there's like evolving technology that's, like, the technology is evolving very quickly.
Exactly.
And there's a lot to be explored.
Let's put on the agenda
I'll
with a
find
time
it,
limit
I'll
and
find
it's
a
the
different
start.
forum.
That one needs to be time.
I will keep the time, I swear.
Well, yeah,
We can just use AI to keep.
so timing, is it possible to keep this?
Thanks for hearing that.
Maybe we should talk about the timing of the meetings on the agenda.
And like, actually, it might be good if you join one of my leadership team meetings and then you talk with like Christine.
Can you
That might
invite
be-
me to that?
That
Yeah.
might be a good, like,
Okay. Yeah, no, maybe that's a good.
Let's
way
start
to-
there.
Yeah. Let's start there.
Very good.
Okay.
Is the agenda next just public comment and then adjourn?
That's right.
And I bet there's probably an AI solution for s'mores that we can figure out. Yeah.
All right. Thanks
Oh,
for that.
goodness, it's like, yeah.
it's fast.
No, it's overwhelming. Next one, public participation. I didn't see any additional comments, except the one that was made to Lauren, that the camera was pointing to the ceiling. Apologies.
I should have said something.
Apologies for that. I heard the thing go off and I was like, oh, let's keep going. But yeah, so I think we're good there.
Can I have a quick question?
Yes, of
Public
course.
comment, and again, you don't have to respond directly, but I've said this before, and I'm still sitting with it, and I like look at the list of parent organizations, and I don't quite know where it fits. But this bridge in terms of like a space for parents to learn about like restorative practices in SEL and bullying, or a space for parents to hear about like how the school is thinking about AI, or some like a bridge there. And if there is an avenue to think about, like similar to how the equity committee is thinking about like 3 forums a year around something that feels important to people to just like get not an unregulated, unfacilitated conversation, but like a curated, here's the thing, kind of like what Eugene did for Black Student Success. Like, here's the thing that's happening, here's what's happening at the school. If you have questions, here's how you can talk to your teacher about it or whatever. If there's a space where I can funnel that energy and work with some folks and like hear what parents are interested in, whether it's like bullying or classroom expectations have come up or AI or different things like that, like I would be delighted to contribute to something like that. If someone can point me in the right direction. I don't know if it's the LSC and I don't know if it's, like, I don't know quite where that
It used to be the
falls.
parent advisory council, and so we no longer have a parent
Right.
advisory council, but that's where those issues used to go.
Yep, that sounds right, yeah. So if anyone has ideas or thoughts, like I've thought about coming to PSO and being like, so for new families, what can we like coalesce around? 'Cause, like, I would love to be the bridge to like new families next year, right? So like just thinking about what the right avenue is for that. So again, it doesn't have to have an answer tonight, but like sit with it, think about it. Like however
Yeah,
you want.
that kind of falls in what we were talking about last time at the meeting, just trying to figure out, trying to figure out what to bring up. Like the main thing, one of the main things that we're talking about was facilitating or incentivizing folks to volunteer. Outside participation or parent participation has always been problematic. I don't know how else to phrase it or name it. So I think that would be very good. And it sounds like you just volunteered yourself for it too, so that was great.
I'm happy to,
That's
truly,
awesome.
like, I would be happy to put some energy there, and I think it could be the kind of thing too, where like, even if someone can't join live, like, it could be short enough and curated enough that if it were recorded, they could go and they could find it, right? Whether it's 10 minutes or 30 minutes or whatever. Because I hear people asking similar questions, and it feels like if there's enough coalescing around something where it feels like we can't answer everything. But that kind of bridge for people who are asking questions. So wherever that might fit. Just
We've
answer.
been talking next. An idea I have is emerging issues, emerging topic sort of forum where you can then channel specific issues to these different committees. Right. So
And also
AI
just
would
like
fall
for
on that.
parents to know, right? Like some of it's emerging, but some of it is like consistent. But like if you haven't been in one in 5 years, or if you're new to the school, like what kind
So
of
our struggle as a school has been when we hold these parent workshops virtually in person, people don't come. We spend a lot of time putting these workshops together and then folks aren't there. And so we struggle with, is that really the best use of our time? Given the magnitude of the work that we're trying to
And that's why I think it's a good pivot to having that much more involvement from the outside. Just giving them the guidelines. These are the items that we would like to talk about. Use your imagination. Use that energy to make sure that what would you want to know about the school as a parent.
My inclination is instead of reinventing the wheel, let's say that we're hearing a lot about bullying.
Exactly.
What if we just approach rep, just off the top of my head, and say, hey, this is something the community really wants to learn more about. Could you maybe focus the next community meetings? They already hold community meetings about this topic.
But what that doesn't have is an understanding of what's happening in school. And that I'm less interested in parents having a space to talk about a thing. I'm more interested in understanding what our kids, what is the SEL curriculum, just really basic stuff where it would take 10 minutes of a teacher's or an admin, again, low hanging fruit, not trying to reinvent the wheel. I hear you. I so hear you. You're busy and you should be focusing on what you should be focusing on. But if there are a couple of core issues where we can bridge between what's happening at school and what's happening for family.
So for 10 years, we've heard the same thing, which is why we put parent workshops together on these exact issues. And then folks don't come.
Yeah.
So we constantly hear it. So that's why we've tried to tighten up our family handbook, which lists a lot of information in it. We've got a lot of things written down. People won't read that either.
Right.
So we're sort of how do folks then navigate when they're not reading, they're not listening, they're not coming forth? That's the real struggle.
That is an issue. So thanks for bringing that up. I think there's a lot that we need to talk about and make sure that we continue that discussion. It looks like some material already exists, so I think it's just maybe a matter of just continuing being relentless and forceful about publicizing that and making sure that people are aware of it because it's there.
And I work in communications. Our mantra is people don't read, right? They don't. And so how do you get such people?
There's the message, then there's the channel, right? So if the message, there's nothing wrong with the message, then we need to think through, do we need a different channel, right? If physical workshop, people are busy, do we do an audio? You can go and investigate something and put out a 10-minute, 15-minute take, right? Make it a daily. You've done the audio?
Done all of this.
Okay.
We've literally done all of this. I put a secret word at the end of my newsletter and say, if you write the secret word, people don't read it. You don't read it. This is the fact. You read, and you send more of those s'mores.
No.
You're not gonna read it.
I'm saying that the channel, you said newsletter, is there a different channel?
Newsletter, workshops, in person, virtual.
I didn't mean to extend the meeting by 10
Yeah, we gotta go with my kids then.
We're gonna have our
Why don't we ask AI?
Y'all wanna continue I'm motioning to end the meeting.
Oh,
I just wanted to
let's have
We got a couple more
Motion.
things, just
I'll second.
to wrap it.
Second,
Not
out.
Eric, then we vote, and I think
I'm done,
it's
yes,
I
I
am
agree.
done.
All in favor? We're good. I think we're
Can
good.
you invite me to
Yeah, I
the
can do
next?
for
Okay.
adjourned.
I wanna have a sign talk.
After it's adjourned, it's okay.
What time did I lock up?
No, it's,
I'm tired.
that's the thing. Like there's always the perception that something is not getting done, but it's been done over and over and over. And so like we're doing something. No, I understand that, but that's the thing. Like it exists. I have not seen it. It's like how do you get kind of like the two together? That's the thing. So
Yeah, I'm a big fan of making things on demand.
yeah.
When people ask, I just want to listen and say, look, it's here.
I think we've got some on the website on demand.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm all on demand.